What if a single phone call could implode the presidency of the United States, yet no one dared speak of it for 60 years? She picked up the phone. Her voice, breathless, drugged with desperation or fury, cut across the line like a razor through silk. The operator hesitated. The name she gave didn't belong in the same sentence as White House. Not officially. Not on any record. But it happened. Marilyn Monroe called the president. Not a rumor. Not a tabloid fantasy. A fact buried so deep it took decades of cracks in the system for fragments to leak through. That call didn't just shatter protocol, it shattered something else. Something sacred. Something sealed. A woman worshipped by millions, lusted after by kings and killers alike, whispered a truth into the most guarded house in the world. Not a confession. Not a request. A threat. And then, like a candle extinguished mid-sentence, she was gone. Official story, suicide. Pills. Isolation. Sadness. Reality, surveillance tapes vanished. Intelligence files redacted. Eyewitnesses silenced. Why did the CIA tag her with a red flag? Why did RFK fly across state lines hours before her death, then disappear from every logbook? Why did her housekeeper scrub the crime scene clean before calling the police? Because this wasn't just about a movie star and a philandering president. It was war. Psychological. Political. Sexual. Nuclear. They say she knew things, terrible, nation-toppling things. About Cuba. About Castro. About pillow talk promises and atomic codes murmured in twilight haze. She wasn't just collateral, she was a liability with curves and a diary. And they couldn't afford a liability. Monroe died with secrets under her tongue. But the story didn't die with her. It metastasized, through wiretaps, through hushed hospital confessions, through doctored autopsy reports and burned notebooks. The truth is there, clawing beneath the surface like something trying to breathe. Why did Jackie Kennedy calmly tell her, "You'll marry him, and you'll live in the White House"? Not sarcasm. Not rage. Resignation. Because Jackie knew the game. She knew how expendable Monroe was. This book isn't just a retelling. It's an extraction, a scalpel slicing through the scar tissue of a national lie. You will read names never meant to be spoken, operations buried beneath classified ink, and voices that were supposed to vanish in silence. You were never supposed to read this. The cover-up wasn't clumsy, it was surgical. Precise. Executed with the kind of brutal elegance only the American intelligence machine could orchestrate. But no machine is flawless. And this story bled through the cracks. Every file they burned, every wire they cut, every memory they erased, they missed something. You're holding it now. Turn the page, and the walls start listening. The phone rang once. Twice. A click. A pause thick enough to suffocate. Then her voice, low, sultry, trembling under the weight of something unspeakable, broke through the line like a ghost from the edge of reality. Is he there? No one needed to ask who he was. On the other end, silence. And then, her. Jackie Kennedy. Composed. Cold. Holding the phone like it might infect her. The woman America worshipped had just called the wife of the most powerful man in the world, and told her she was going to replace her. "I'll move into the White House," Marilyn said. "John promised me. He told me he'd leave you." The air in the room didn't just still. It fractured. The audacity, the ache, the madness. Jackie didn't scream, didn't cry. She simply answered, in a voice more chilling than betrayal itself. "You'll marry him. And you'll live in the White House. But you'll have to face the same things I have. The same enemies. The same ghosts." And then the line went dead. That was April 1962. By May, Monroe stood beneath the blinding lights of Madison Square Garden, wrapped in a dress so tight it looked like she'd been poured into liquid diamonds, her voice as breathy and haunting as a prayer whispered through a locked church door. "Happy birthday, Mr. President." She sang like she was bleeding. Each syllable floated through the auditorium like forbidden incense. She wasn't just performing, she was marking something. Branding it into time. The audience laughed. Applauded. But there was something else under the surface, a current, raw and electric. 1,000 eyes turned toward JFK. He smiled, yes, but the twitch at the corner of his mouth betrayed the panic chewing at the inside of his skull. This wasn't just a performance. It was a warning wrapped in silk and skin. There she stood, radiant and unraveling, in front of senators and dignitaries, CIA agents and gossip columnists, her voice like a match poised above a powder keg. Everyone clapped. No one breathed. The room was swollen with the scent of fear masked as charm. Something had just happened. Something irreversible. Jackie wasn't there. She refused to be. The First Lady had received the call. She knew what this was. She knew the blonde bombshell in sequins wasn't just singing. She was calling in a promise. A threat. A truth no one else had the guts to say out loud. That night, the Secret Service shuffled like shadows around the exits. Men with cameras looked at each other, unsure whether to capture the moment or destroy the film. Even the chandeliers above seemed to tremble, catching the last tremors of a star burning out too bright, too fast, too close. Afterward, JFK took the mic, barely audible. "Thank you. I can now retire from politics after having had happy birthday sung to me in such a sweet, wholesome way." Wholesome. He said it with a smirk that stank of dread. Every person in that room knew the subtext. Knew the heat behind her whisper, the bruises behind her voice. Marilyn didn't just crash a political gala. She hijacked it. She inserted herself into the machinery of power, screaming without words that she existed, that she mattered, that she was owed. She didn't need a podium. Her body was the speech. The media sanitized it. Laughed it off. Called it provocative, memorable, cheeky. But the corridors of the White House were already vibrating with aftershocks. Phone lines lit up. Advisors scrambled. Files were pulled from locked drawers. Damage control was activated before the cake had even been cut. Because no one had anticipated the weight of that call. No one expected Marilyn to follow through with that dress, that song, that look she shot across the crowd like a sniper's bullet made of longing and vengeance. And behind all the shimmer, beneath that hourglass silhouette, was a woman unraveling, thread by thread. Her heart wasn't just broken. It was weaponized. And now, it was pointed directly at the Oval Office. After that night, things changed. She started receiving strange phone calls. Her therapist noted restlessness. Her housekeeper whispered to neighbors about men watching from parked cars. The government began sealing cracks in its walls. The president stopped taking certain calls. Bobby Kennedy, once warm and magnetic around her, turned ice-cold, evasive. Something had shifted. The wrong woman had spoken too loudly, and the most powerful men in the world had just realized they couldn't control her. Not with pills. Not with threats. Not even with promises. She wasn't playing anymore. She was waiting. And they knew she wouldn't wait forever. The click was soft. Barely audible. But she felt it. She froze mid-sentence, cigarette trembling between her fingers. The air in her living room was still, silent, tense like it was holding its breath with her. The telephone on the table sat too perfectly, too quiet. A second ago, she was laughing, light, distracted, almost happy. Now, her voice faded into static. Into suspicion. Someone was listening. They always were. She stood slowly, eyes darting to the walls like they might betray her. There were no faces, no footsteps, no shadows, just the stinging certainty that every word she said was being devoured by something she couldn't see. Marilyn Monroe, the sex symbol of a fractured nation, the icon of light and fame, was being hunted in silence. Not by men with knives or fists. But by wires. By whispers. By files stacked in basements she'd never see. Her name was marked. Flagged. Highlighted and read by hands that operated in the dark. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. Langley's CIA. Both tracking her like she was a ticking bomb wrapped in diamonds and lipstick. Not because she broke the law. Because she knew too much. Because she loved the wrong men. Because she listened when no one thought she understood. Because sometimes, late at night, she repeated what those men told her, and someone heard. Every word, every breath, every fragile sigh. Taped. Archived. Scrutinized. They said she was unstable. But they made her that way. Files labeled her a security risk. The press never saw those. They only printed what they were told, that she was erratic, lonely, addicted. But the truth was colder. Meaner. She was being watched. She met with Bobby. She loved Jack. She still carried the ghost of Arthur Miller, brilliant, bleeding, accused. They dragged him in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee like a criminal, like a traitor. Monroe had married him with open eyes. She loved his fire, his defiance. And now that fire was searing into her skin. The FBI didn't forget. They scribbled in notepads about communism, about theater circles, about suspicious associations. Her pillow talk turned into bullet points. Her laughter became evidence. Her kindness became motive. Every time she called a friend, she wondered who else was listening. Every knock at her door tightened her chest. The eyes were everywhere. Not metaphorical. Literal. Black cars parked for too long on her street. Men with no expressions pretending to read newspapers. She would speak into her mirror and pause mid-sentence, convinced someone else was in the room. Paranoia? No. Evidence. When she visited Mexico in '62, hoping for peace, for space, for a breath of life away from the madness, they followed. Agents posing as tourists. Hotel phones bugged. They labeled the trip suspicious. Why? Because she had tea with people they couldn't control. They didn't need proof. They just needed her fear. She wrote in a notebook, pages soaked in anxiety and ink. Strange men called her by name at places she never gave them. A wiretap caught her talking about Cuba. Another caught her crying alone. The surveillance suffocated her slowly. Not in one strike, but over months. Over hundreds of calls. Over the knowledge that every time she spoke her truth, they made her pay for it. Her body began to betray her. Sleep vanished. Her skin broke out in stress. She asked her doctor why her heart raced at 3 a.m., why the walls sometimes pulsed. He said it was anxiety. But the files say otherwise. The file said, subject believes she is being followed. Subject exhibits erratic behavior. Subject unstable. Not woman under psychological siege. Not actress targeted by covert ops. Just unstable. And still, she tried to live. Tried to smile through interviews. Tried to shoot films while knowing men in dark suits were memorizing her schedule. Tried to kiss men while the government transcribed her orgasms into case notes. They didn't need her to be guilty. They just needed her vulnerable. Because vulnerability is easier to erase. She confronted Bobby. She spoke about secrets. About affairs. About power. She hinted at nuclear things. At Havana. At files that should never have reached her ears. And the moment she crossed that invisible line, the line between fame and threat, they circled. Phones rang in Washington. Surveillance intensified. CIA handlers briefed operatives on her behavior. Hoover's boys updated her file with bold underlines and nervous scribbles. They had to know what she knew. They had to make sure she wouldn't talk. But she talked. Too much. To too many. She told her friends she was going to hold a press conference. Said she'd tell the world the truth. Said the Kennedys couldn't keep pretending. She had documents. Diaries. Proof. Her phone calls became shorter. Her visitors became rarer. And the shadows outside her window never moved. She was unraveling, and someone was documenting it in real time. Her ex-husband tried to reach her. Arthur. He said she sounded frightened. Said she asked strange questions, like do they erase people? No one had answers. Because answers meant admitting the surveillance wasn't just precaution. It was preparation. And in the end, when the bedroom fell quiet, and her skin went cold, and the siren screamed too late, the tapes fell silent, too. But they still exist. Locked. Censored. Forgotten by time but not erased. Someone still knows what was said. What was promised. What was feared. The surveillance didn't end. It simply became silence. And silence is the loudest truth of all. The night was unnaturally still. A suffocating silence hung in the air, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Marilyn Monroe lay motionless in her bed, a telephone clutched tightly in her hand, its receiver silent. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows that danced across the walls, whispering secrets only the darkness could understand. Earlier that evening, she had made several phone calls, her voice tinged with desperation and fear. To her hairdresser, she confided that Robert Kennedy had visited her that day, threatening her, yelling at her. She spoke of betrayals by powerful men, of secrets too dangerous to keep. She hinted at a press conference, a revelation that would shock the world. But now, the only sound was the ticking of the clock, each second a reminder that time was slipping away. At 3:30 a.m., her psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson, broke into her bedroom, finding her lifeless body. Empty pill bottles lay on her nightstand, a grim testament to her final moments. The official cause of death, acute barbiturate poisoning. A probable suicide, they said. But the inconsistencies, the conflicting testimonies, the missing phone records, all pointed to a more sinister truth. Marilyn Monroe's death remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century, a haunting enigma that continues to captivate and confound. The truth lies buried beneath layers of lies, secrets, and silence. And perhaps, that's exactly where some wanted it to stay. The night Marilyn Monroe died, the world lost more than a star, it lost a key to secrets that may have been too dangerous to keep. Her death has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories, suggesting that powerful forces may have silenced her to protect their own interests. One theory posits that Monroe was silenced because she possessed sensitive political information. Her alleged affairs with President John F. Kennedy and Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy may have exposed her to classified details, including discussions about the CIA's plans to assassinate foreign leaders like Fidel Castro. Some believe that Monroe kept a little red book where she recorded these secrets, making her a liability to national security. Another theory suggests that the mafia used Monroe to blackmail the Kennedy brothers. According to reports, Union leader Jimmy Hoffa and mob boss Sam Giancana may have orchestrated surveillance of Monroe, capturing compromising information about her relationships with the Kennedys. This information could have been used to exert pressure on the political figures, ensuring the mafia's interests were protected. The CIA's MKUltra program, which involved mind control experiments, adds another layer of intrigue. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MKUltra files, but some documents survived, revealing the agency's involvement in illegal domestic activities during the 1960s. Some theorists speculate that Monroe may have been an unwitting participant in these experiments, and her death was orchestrated to prevent any leaks about the program. These theories, while unproven, highlight the complex web of relationships and secrets surrounding Monroe's life and death. They suggest that her demise was not merely a tragic accident but possibly a calculated move by powerful entities to protect their own agendas. The truth remains elusive, buried beneath layers of speculation and secrecy. The night Marilyn Monroe died, the world lost more than a star. It lost a key to secrets that may have been too dangerous to keep. Her death has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories, suggesting that powerful forces may have silenced her to protect their own interests. One theory posits that Monroe was silenced because she possessed sensitive political information. Her alleged affairs with President John F. Kennedy and Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy may have exposed her to classified details, including discussions about the CIA's plans to assassinate foreign leaders like Fidel Castro. Some believe that Monroe kept a little red book where she recorded these secrets, making her a liability to national security. Another theory suggests that the mafia used Monroe to blackmail the Kennedy brothers. According to reports, Union leader Jimmy Hoffa and mob boss Sam Giancana may have orchestrated surveillance of Monroe, capturing compromising information about her relationships with the Kennedys. This information could have been used to exert pressure on the political figures, ensuring the mafia's interests were protected. The CIA's MKUltra program, which involved mind control experiments, adds another layer of intrigue. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MKUltra files, but some documents survived, revealing the agency's involvement in illegal domestic activities during the 1960s. Some theorists speculate that Monroe may have been an unwitting participant in these experiments, and her death was orchestrated to prevent any leaks about the program. These theories, while unproven, highlight the complex web of relationships and secrets surrounding Monroe's life and death. They suggest that her demise was not merely a tragic accident but possibly a calculated move by powerful entities to protect their own agendas. The truth remains elusive, buried beneath layers of speculation and secrecy.